This is the Tree of Life, Season 16, Chapter 5. In this episode, we will be breaking down a substitution event so that we can understand the linking of parallel structures. To start out, in the last episode, we talked about how parallel structures, one analog, one digital, can coexist with a linking of phases between them. This was used to explain how the common impulse as between them, in the example, impulse 2, is negated within the analog structure and negated within the digital structure, leading to affirmation of impulse 1 in the analog structure. Now, we also talked about how larger arrangements, such as would result from this negation, occur through infinite recursion caused by a substitution event. In that case, each negation of an impulse results in a corresponding descent into another more convoluted path, which through sublimation and verbalization transforms that analog structure into a digital one. Now, to break this down a little bit, the negation leads to sublimation. This leads to an elongation of phase within the analog structure during the substitution event, which, afterwards, through verbalization transforms the analog structure to a digital one by way of structural adjustment, producing the causal reordering of the most convoluted path to the least. Thus, preserved within this digital structure, reflected outside of it are the arrangements produced by those convoluted paths. This is important for a few reasons. First, we see that the scale of negation, being the phase associated with the initial negated impulse within the analog structure, is magnified by each convolution of path within each substitution event. That is to say, more time occurs for each convolution relative to path parsimony. The result of this recursion is that this magnification through each event represents a distinct passage of the arrow of time relative to each path. That is to say, although there is some degree of linearity to the path associated with each substitution event, that linearity is stretched by the negation and sublimation. Now, we also see that analog structures describe impulses which are contextually substitutionary. That is to say, that the affirmation of the substitutionary impulse is local as opposed to the negation, which is non-local. There is an element of time to the analog structure, however. But we can infer that time is measured by the affirmation, not the scale of negation. Since we can infer that the negation magnifies time, guided by the insights which result from infinite recursion, but not linearity, we can say that they must form vis-a-vis a spatial continuity independent of time, that is, path. To return to our analysis of the substitution event, the elongation of a phase associated with negation and sublimation reveals that relative to affirmation the scale of negation is a measure of time. This fits with our conceptualization of the elongation of phase. Why? Because as we saw from linked structures, if you elongate the phase associated with any parallel structure, it must elongate the phase associated with a particular conformation of all of them, whilst altering, during that elongation, the conformational entropy represented by all linked structures. This means that if conformational entropy must decrease with time, these analog structures would, during the elongation period, create time, by artificially reducing the conformational entropy of the series of structures, which can only be broken by the decoupling or breakdown in linking between them. That's the end of the podcast for today.